So we want to bring that back. So today we're going to do an introduction to PowerShell with DBA-VUG, me and Claudio. Rob is then going to talk about Pesto, which is a great PowerShell testing framework. Jordan is going to bring in a DBA check session where you can combine DBA-VUG and Pesto to check your entire estate. And then on January 28th, we're all going to be here to share some PowerShell automation magic, we've called it, but basically some like real world scenarios that we use PowerShell for that you can learn from. We've got a repo on GitHub with the slides, the demo code, all that. You can grab that at any time. And obviously to sign up for the meetups, it's on the DBA virtual user group link. So before we get too far in, this is me. My name's Jess Pomfret. If you don't know me already, my pronouns are she and her, and I am a data platform engineer for a company called Data Masterminds. I do DBA stuff, I do automation stuff, I do DevOps stuff now, Azure stuff, whatever's kind of broken, I like to come in and try and fix. So that's pretty much me. I'm a Microsoft MVP, and I'm lucky enough to have written a book about DBA-VUG with Claudio and Rob and Chrissy Lemaire. If you want to get in contact with me, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find my website has some contact details on. I do try Blue Sky. I'm not very good at it. But LinkedIn is probably your best bet if you want me. And we've also got Claudio.
Hey everyone. My name is Claudio. I also work for Data Masterminds, although most of my time I'm doing performance tuning. And when I'm not doing that, I'm doing some automation with PowerShell and using DBA-VUG and some other modules. As Jess said, we wrote these Learn DBA-VUG in a month of lunch. If you got curious after this session, or if you already use it and you want to know a little bit more, it can be a good way if you like to have it as a book with small recipes and things that you can do in your lunchtime, as an example, of course. And if you want to get in contact with me, you can find the contacts down here on LinkedIn, my website, and GitHub if you want to check also some repositories.
Okay, cool. So let's start off by talking about what PowerShell is, okay? So PowerShell is an automation and configuration management framework, which is a lot of words to basically say we can automate things using PowerShell, right? It's a command line shell, excuse me, but also a scripting language, which means that we can do stuff one-off in the console, like we need to quickly check something, but we can also add error handling, we can add configuration, we can make our script very robust and use it as more of a scripting language than just a shell. It's built on .NET, which means that we have a lot of the tools and techniques and methods and things that you have if you're used to working with .NET languages like C#. But it's built for system admins, and in our case, database admins, right? PowerShell has been around for ages now. Since November 2006 was the first version. So it's 19 years old. It's already driving and drinking and causing chaos, I guess. But when we think about, oh, wrong way. It's back to you, Claudio. No. One of the things we want to talk about today is obviously PowerShell, but why we care. Why do I care to use PowerShell if I'm a DBA? And the main reason is to automate tasks. Okay, fine, but why? Well, think about consistency. If you ask a human, you ask me to go and do the same task 5 different times, I'm probably going to do it 5 slightly different ways, right? Like, for example, if you say, Jess, go and rename the files in this folder and add the date to them. Oh, what format should the date be? Should there be underscores? Should there be dashes? That's never going to look the same, right? Every time I go and do that task, it's going to look slightly different. If you do it with a script, it's going to be consistent every time. It's also probably going to be quicker, right? How long is it going to take me to rename a file versus my script to rename it? It's going to take me a lot longer, especially if we try and scale that. If there's 100 files, I'm going to right-click, rename each one, put the date in, probably mess up a few along the way. Automating these tasks is going to make it quicker. We're going to be able to scale it. It's going to be much better. It's also going to document exactly what we're trying to do without even really trying to document it, right? If I write a script, I can maybe even put some comments in there to make it even better. But that script is going to explain, oh, we're going to grab the files in this folder and we're going to add the date. Okay, cool. Now I know what's going on. Also, for recovery situations, automating tasks makes things much easier to recover. If you find yourself in a disaster recovery situation and you're rebuilding virtual machines or you're rebuilding environments, having scripts already written because you use them in your everyday life is going to make things much easier. So, where is PowerShell?
Yeah, where is PowerShell? Nowadays, I would say everywhere. So PowerShell comes pre-installed on all the Windows versions starting on the Windows 7 and Server 2008 R2. And this one that normally you have seen with the blue background is what is called the Windows PowerShell. And that version, so the most recent version of that one is 5.1, and that ends there because there is no updates for this specific one. However, if you work not on a Windows machine, for example, PowerShell nowadays is also cross-platform. So you can use on Linux, on macOS, and that is with PowerShell Core, or nowadays the most recent version called PowerShell 7. And in this case, also works in Windows, meaning that you can have even side-by-side with the 5.1. And nowadays, even with the terminal, so instead of the command line, you can have a terminal where you can open side-by-side different versions. You can have all of them. If you want to check what is the version that you are using, there is this global variable $PS version table that will give you that nice table. And it will, you can see at the first value being the version that you have there. But the question then will be where we can do code or run commands. So using Windows, we have the console, as I said just before. We have the one that is specific for Windows with the blue background. But then nowadays you have the Windows terminal where you can have not only that one, but also the PowerShell and even a shell one, like you can have on Linux. And still on Windows, you can use the ISE, which is the integrated script environment. So it's an IDE that you can open, you can build scripts, run from there, you save your scripts, etc. So you have help and some other stuff that can help you to organize better your code. On Linux, nowadays, it's supported or can be installed and running on all these flavors since the PowerShell 6 and the PowerShell Core. And on both, either Linux or Windows, you can use VS Code. VS Code has the integrated console, which allows you to have this rich environment where you can have some extensions and you can do development on your window, run on the integrated console, all in one place, and you can open your folder, have all your files. So everything is in one place, and this is like the way to go, at least in my opinion, to start with, because it makes things much easier. And if you don't like this light mode, it also has dark mode. So you choose your poison.
Yeah, the dark mode is my favorite personally, but like Claudio said, this environment is so customizable with extensions, with themes. You can make it really feel and do exactly what you like. Okay, cool. So we now know what PowerShell is, why we might want to use it. Let's dive into a demo and look into a bit about how we use it. So PowerShell uses this verb-noun naming format that you'll see as we get into this. Basically, the action being what we're going to do, like get, and then the noun being what we're going to act on, like a command or a help or a process. But let's dive into VS Code. This repo that we've got open, here is available on GitHub. You can pull it down. It's actually it's running as a dev container, which is more complicated than we want to explain right now, but it means that you could pull this down and run through the demos exactly as we are. So you can see we've got a dbatools introduction, and I can open one of these files with some demos in. This is introduction to PowerShell, so I'm going to show you an introduction to PowerShell. And you can see in my terminal, hopefully the size is big enough. If you need it bigger, just shout and I can zoom in. You'll notice down here, I'm already running some tests to make sure things are exactly how I like them. You can find out more about those with Rob next month. But let's talk intro to PowerShell. So as Claudia mentioned in the slides, we want to check what version of PowerShell we're running. We can use this $PS version table. And to run that, you can just highlight it and press F8. I'm on Windows, or on Mac, there'll be some magical key you can press to execute a line. You can also just be on the line and press F8. It will automatically run the whole line, which I really appreciate. And then I go to Management Studio and it doesn't work the same. Be careful. Cool. All right, so you can see my PowerShell version is 7.5.3, which I believe is the latest version of PowerShell core that you can get. We just rebuilt this recently, and you can see some other versions. The one I really care about is this PowerShell version. So how do I find commands that I want to be able to use? Like when I'm first getting started in PowerShell, one of the first things I want you to remember, write this down, is get command. Now, get command is a PowerShell level command. It doesn't matter which flavor of PowerShell you have. You open PowerShell, as it comes out of the box, you're going to have get command. And you can pass in a parameter, which is signified by this dash of verb and get. And if I run this line, it shows you all of the get commands I have available to me. And you can see there's lots of them, many, many commands. And if I get to the top, you can see I've got some headings. Okay, so what type they are, whether they're just an alias or they're actually a function, the name, the version, and then the module that they came from. For example, get DBA build reference has come from the dbatools module. This is the version I have available, and it's actually an alias for a different command name. I can also search for specific commands that I want to find. So I want to do something with processes in my environment. I can say get command name process, passing in the asterisk or the star as a wildcard. These are all the commands that have process somewhere in the name. So get DBA process or debug process, get process. Those are all returned here from different modules. If I want to just get details about a specific command, I can pass in the specific name. So get command name, get process. This is the exact command. It came from version 7 of the Microsoft.PowerShell.management module, which is built into PowerShell and Windows PowerShell. You can use it without having to do anything. So get command, that's the first command you need to remember. The second one, once we've found the command we're going to use, is get help. How are we going to use it? Now, PowerShell is really great about get help, and dbatools especially, but most PowerShell modules have this comment-based help within the command. So if I run get help, which is the command, and I pass in get process, so help me with the get process command, you can see I've got a bunch of information returned down here. The name of the command, the synopsis gets the processes that are running on the local computer. I've got some syntax options, and I've got a description. The get process command gets the processes on a local computer. Without parameters, it does this. By default, etc. Also some links where you can get more information and some remarks. You'll notice there are more options for the help. For example, if I pass in the detailed flag or the detailed switch, I will get even more information. I'll get examples. I'll get detailed information about all the parameters. This is a long, old document for you to read and enjoy. If you're running on Windows, you can do get help, get process, and then dash show window. This is one of my favorite commands if you're on a Windows machine. It basically pops this help up into a separate window that you can keep and reference back to. You can search in it, you can zoom, really useful. This doesn't work in the dev container because basically I'm running on Linux here within this container, but test that out in your own environments. One of the things I use most from the help, though, is the examples. And with all of the commands from dbatools especially, but from most of the commands that you'll get in any PowerShell module, they'll have at least some commands, some examples that show you how you can use the command. And if they are written well, and in my opinion, they should start with the most basic example. So you can see example 1 is just running get process. You don't need any parameters. You don't need anything else. And then this is what will happen. This command gets a list of all running processes on the local computer. So, all right, let's give it a go. Let's run get process. And there you go. I've got a list of processes running on my local container. If you've got questions, as we mentioned in the start, throw them into the chat. We've got Rob, we've got Jordan, myself and Claudio will answer them as we go. If Rob, Jordan, Paresh, anyone wants to interrupt us with questions, go for it. Otherwise, I will head back to the slides because we have learnt about the first. Keep on going.
Yeah,
great.
Keep on going.
Nice. Cool. So as I mentioned, just to remind you again, get command, get help, and get member, which we'll see in a later demo. These 3 commands are PowerShell, standard PowerShell. You can use them anywhere, any commands, any modules. And I use them all the time to find the command for a certain job, get help about that command, get the examples of how I'm going to use it. And as I said, get member we'll touch on in the next demo, but allows you to explore the output of that command. Neat. All right. Parameters. Claudio, tell us more about parameters.
Yeah, so as you have seen just showing, we use in PowerShell, we use the dash for a parameter. And you type the parameter name. And a cool thing is that you get autocomplete suggestions. So if you start typing the parameter name and you hit the tab key, it will show you the first option based on that one. And if you keep pressing tab, it will rotate on those options. If you are not sure which parameter you want, and so you don't know which letter it will start, you can use the dash, and without typing anything, if you use the control space, you will get a list of the options that are available, in this case, like this screenshot, on the get process. And then you can use your arrows on the keyboard, select which one you want, and then pass a value to it. But one other thing that we will show is that PowerShell deals with objects. So the traditional shells, like the Unix shell, it works with strings, with text. And then you need to know some kung fu about grep and set and how to work with those things. However, with PowerShell, as we are not working with just strings but rich objects, we don't need to do that parsing, and we can access the methods, the properties, events, etc., that are part of those objects. Those objects normally are structured.NET objects. You can pass any other thing that you want, but if you pass that way, you get all this power of passing to the next command and do something else that you want. We can also access the properties directly. So if we do a get process and we wrap that on parentheses and with the dollar, then we do dots and we can access which properties are there. And this example of the WS to show the working set memory will just show you that specific column.
Nice. So one of the other things we mentioned as we've been going through is the pipeline. And the pipeline is really cool in PowerShell. It allows us to link commands together. As Claudio mentioned, we're talking about objects. We're not talking about string. So with those objects, we can do stuff with them, right? And basically what we can do is we can take the output of one command on the left, we pass it through that pipeline, and then we can use the output of that first command as the input for the next command. It's really neat. One simple example here. So back to our get process, right? We get all of the processes running on my machine. We can pipe that to sort object, which does what exactly says on the tin. It sorts the object that has been passed in by CPU descending. So you can see what's using all the CPU on my machine, and then piped again to select object, which is going to grab just the first 5. So this is like a select top 5, right, of our processes on our machine, if we're thinking about SQL. And you can see that Spotify, Teams, Slack, and I've got too many tabs open in Edge. So the pipeline is a great way of taking commands and like building onto them. And we'll see that more in the demos. Let's pop back into our introduction to PowerShell file and talk about the things that we just learned from the slides. So parameters. What parameters can we use with get process? Well, let's roll back again to get help. If I do get help for get process, there is a parameter switch, and I can say, show me all the parameters. And this will give me detailed information about each parameter. So the parameter name, the thing that it is. So this is a switch parameter, meaning you can turn it on and off. And it indicates that this commandlet gets the file version information for the program that runs in the process. You can also see some things like, is it required? Is it a positional parameter? So that's really cool because you'll notice when I did get help, I didn't specify a parameter for get process, right? It's just the first parameter. And that's because it's a positional parameter. You can also see if there are any aliases for the parameter, whether it accepts wildcards, whether it accepts pipeline. This output is probably more details than most people will look into, but when you are starting to work on this and you find things that aren't working how you expect, you can dig in here and find everything you need right in your console. So you can also use tab complete. So if I'm on the console and I'm doing get process, if I get to the dash, if I do tab, and if I press it twice on Linux, it will list all of the things that I could use. If I put N, you'll see that the tab completes that to name. You also might notice if I go back that there's some shading in the background here. You can see I've only actually got up to this command, this character, but already it's guessing that I want to go name and then PWSH, which is PowerShell. That is some of the new stuff within the module that Rob will put into the chat because I can't remember which one it is. Is it PowerShell Get that does it? But basically it's learning what I'm doing and it's guessing what I might want to type. No, Rob says it's not. Unless he wasn't. It's PS readline, that's right. PS readline. And you can add in different configuration options with PS readline as to where it gets its intelligence from. It's really neat. But all right, so tab complete name, and then I can do Posh and it will show me just the Posh things running. If I do get process and then just the dash, that's what I did just a second ago. If I press it twice, you can see all the parameters that are available. If I'm on Windows and I get to this point, if I press Control and space, I will get what we saw in the screenshot with all the parameters. Cool. All right, so let's look at that example again. These are the processes that are running PowerShell on my machine, right? And remember that we're in a container, so there aren't a ton of processes running, but I've got 3 processes currently. This is the CPU they're using. This is the memory they're using. Because this is an object, it's not just text. We can also hit specific properties, right? So this syntax basically wraps the output, and then I can say .id. So give me the IDs of the specific processes that are running PowerShell. I've got 3. These are the IDs. Well, in PowerShell, there's also some built-in variables. PS version table we looked at earlier. $PID gives you my process ID, the process ID of this session. So I can also do get process for the ID of my session. This is how much resources this exact session is using right now. And because it's objects, that means there's a bunch of properties, there's a bunch of methods available. So let's talk about get member. This was our third of the 3 very important PowerShell commands. And if I take get process and I pipe it to get member, you'll see we get a whole bunch of information. And it's basically telling us about the object that we passed in, all right? So get member tells me about the members of the commandlet that I passed through the pipeline. And you can see that this is a specific type. It's not a string, it's a system diagnostics process. And on that process, on this object type, there are a bunch of aliases for things like VM or WS, which are aliases for working set or virtual memory. There are events, there are methods, which mean you can enact them. There are properties, which means you can select them. So let's go ahead and use that alias, that WS alias. We can say get my process, what's the working set memory usage? It's in bytes here, so we would need to do some maths, but that is the working set for this specific process. Now, if I read the notes that I wrote, I say, do not run this in this demo, because this is called, don't run it. This is calling a method on my process, and the method is kill. So this is going to end my session if I run that. I'll let you play with that at home. It's not that bad. You can just start a new session. In VS Code, this button down here will bring you a new terminal. No problem. Cool. All right. So those were objects. Let's talk about the pipeline. So get process ID PID. This is the output of this command, right? It's coming back. It's formatted as a table. This is what you get by default. But if I push it through the pipeline, I can now format it as a list. And if I press star, this is basically doing a select star in SQL. You'll see all of the properties that are available. And you'll be like, wow, there's way more. We only had 6 properties up here, 7 properties. It's an object, right? There's so much more under the covers that you don't get exposed by default, because PowerShell and the designers of PowerShell and dbatools that you'll see in a minute try to return the things that we think will be useful. So we think if you ask for get process, you probably care about this, so we'll tell you about it. But there's way more information there. So if you are exploring things and you're playing with different things, do format list with an asterisk and see what all the properties you get back. So you can also use select object, which will select just specific properties. So in this case, I'm saying I only care about the name, the ID, the CPU, and the start time. And you'll see that those have been returned here. And because it's not too many properties that would fit on the screen, it's done it as a table. If you kept selecting properties, at some point it will turn it into this format list to make it easier to see. We also have sort object, which, as it says, will sort the objects. I can sort by CPU, and you can see that SQL Server is using the most memory now, or the most CPU now within my container. You can also use multiple pipelines like we saw in the slide. So pipe through to sort object and then pipe through again to select first 5. The order of this pipeline is important. If you select the first 5 and then you sort them, you're just going to sort the first 5. You're not going to sort everything and then select the first 5, right? Same with filtering if you're using where object, or if you're doing any kind of processing, you want to do that before you do any kind of formatting. But yeah, this is pipeline. Super useful in PowerShell, and we'll see it a lot more in the DBA-Tools demo, which, let's head back to our slides. I think it's time to talk about how PowerShell can be extended. And one of the ways is with modules, right?
One of the ways with modules, exactly. Modules in PowerShell, to make it simple for now, is just a combination of one or multiple commands or functions. You will probably read and heard about commands, commandlet functions, so different names for the same thing. That as a version, and then it can have dependencies, because you can depend on other modules and other stuff, but it encapsulates, and whenever you build a module, then you can give a version, and as long as you move things and change things, you change the version, and that makes it much easier to know where we are, in which version, what is included, etc. So to start with modules, we need to use the get module commandlet. And if you use just get module, by default, it will just load or show you the modules that you have already loaded in your session. But if you want to search, if you have a specific module or all the modules available in this case, you can use the dash list available, and then that will show you all the modules that are on your environment path with all the versions available. To start using a module, we need to import the module. Or since PowerShell 3, there is an auto load feature. So if you type and start typing a name from a command that you already know, you don't need to explicitly use the import module, because that will automatically load the module behind the scenes into memory. And then from that point, you can start finding which commands are available. So as an example, if we want to import the DBA-tools module, we need to do import module name -name DBA-tools. Or let's say that you really want to import a very specific version to test something, you can use also the parameter required version and then pass the version. So those are a couple of examples. And the cool thing with this extension of the console and the PowerShell and with the modules is that you can combine modules and commands from different modules. So we were seeing just the get process, which is a Windows command, but then we can pipe that to other commands that can read that data and do something else. And we will see on other sessions later that is also feasible with multiple different things. So let's see the next one, which is extensibility with the gallery. So where can we get modules? Because, okay, you mentioned modules, we need to install them, but where do I get those modules? So PowerShell Gallery is a central repository where you can find like even the older versions if you need to download a specific one. And by using the PowerShell Gallery is centralized, you will pick it and it will install it on your machine. Examples of modules, we have DBA-tools, we have DBA checks, the SQL Server module, Pester, Import Excel, PS-HTML, and there are many, many, many more. So depending on what do you need, what do you want to do, that will be maybe a PowerShell module for that. Take a look, search for it. To install the module, maybe I don't know if you work in a more closed environment in terms of security, where you don't have internet access from like a central box where you manage your SQL servers. But PowerShell got you covered, and you can also use the save module commandlet to do the downloads of a specific module. It will generate a folder, and as you can see here in this example, it will download the DBA-tools and the DBA-tools.library, which is a dependency module that DBA-tools use. But because you just said, I want DBA-tools, by reading the module, it knows that there are dependencies and it brings everything together, and you get these two folders, and then you can also move these folders to your central server, which doesn't have internet access, but now you have DBA-tools also installed on that machine. One other option, or there are more options, which will be you can download from GitHub. DBA-tools also has that as an example, that you can invoke a web request command and point to a URL that will bring that. Or even if you have the module already on a specific machine and you want to use that version and you don't want to pick it, or is more handy for you, you can copy that folder to your new server. And from there, whenever you open a new PowerShell window, you will be able to see that module there. And then we get to DBA-tools. So now that we have talked about PowerShell in general, how we can run things, what is parameters, what is the commandlet. We talk about the most important commands with the get help, get member, and get commands. Now we can go a little bit deeper, and let's have another module, which is in this case DBA-tools, because I guess that one way or the other, everyone here works with the SQL Server and maybe want to get data, automate tasks, and check some other stuff. dbatools.io is the website, what it is, which has this look and feel. And then here you can get and jump on the docs and on the commands, and also to the GitHub to check, because DBA-tools is an open source PowerShell module, meaning that you can contribute to it. either if you just find a typo on the help that you are reading, or that you find that something is not working on one example, you can open an issue and then the team will take a look and help doing. If you have PowerShell experience, you can also help creating pull requests with improvements, fixes, and so on. Everyone is welcome, okay?
Very true.
What can we get with the PowerShell? So open source, as I said, developed by data professionals and for all data professionals. Nowadays, with almost 700 commands, and Rob will start typing one by one on the chat. And this works with, or starting with PowerShell 3 or higher, for Windows versions, as said, the v5.1 is recommended. And if you are working with Linux or even on Windows and want to get the most recent one, go with the PowerShell core, as we saw the version 7. It works on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. We can use dbatools to connect to any flavor of SQL Server, as in the edition being Express, Standard, Web Edition, Enterprise. And we can use different authentication types, so either Windows authentication, SQL authentication. If you connect to Azure with MFA and so on, also possible to use. And it works not only with the default instance, but also with named instances. And one other thing that's important is that it kind of encourages the best practices. So we have some stuff that like setting the memory of the server, or max DOP, where we use some best practices from the community, from Microsoft, to try to make it as a good suggestion, and then we can work smarter and not harder. But Jess,
totally. Yeah, this is one of my favorite kind of quotes around DBA tools, is that it's like a command line SQL Server Management Studio. So if you can do it in SSMS, you can pretty much do it in DBA tools. And the mostly is stuff like SSIS, SSAS, SSRS. None of that is included in DBA tools. We're talking the database engine kind of stuff that you're doing in Management Studio. So some examples, like getting database info for a user database on SQL One. Well, in Management Studio, you'd connect to the instance, right? You'd go to databases, and then you could look at Object Explorer, and you could see all the information. You can do the exact same thing in PowerShell. Get DBA database. Again, remember that naming. We've got get, as in we're going to get information, and we're going to do it on a database. The DBA prefix on that second part of the command means that it came from the DBA tools module. This naming is going to start to feel familiar the more you see it. But basically, get DBA database, the SQL instance is SQL One, exclude system. I've got the same information, right? My database name, the recovery model, the owner, etc. You can also do things, right? Not just getting information, but backing up a database on SQL One. So to do this in Management Studio, we'd maybe right-click on the database, go to Tasks, go to Backup, fill in the form. Which database, what kind of backup, we're going to check that copy only checkbox, and then where we're going to put it, ctemp AdventureWorks. Same in DBA tools. We're going to do a backup DBA database with that same information. And you'll notice that we're using splatting in this example. Splatting is just a way of formatting your PowerShell code to make it more readable. And so basically we create this hash table called params, with the parameter name on the left and the parameter value on the right, and then we just smush it into backup DBA database. I would highly recommend, if you're writing PowerShell in scripts or just for yourself, to use splatting, because it does make it a lot easier and a lot nicer to read. What about getting SQL agent jobs, Claudio? Can we do that with DBA tools?
Sure, we can. So if you want to get like a list of the agent jobs that we have, now you can imagine you want to get something, DBA as prefix of the commands and agent job. So if we do that and we pass the SQL1 instance in this example, we'll get a list of the jobs that we have. And remember, these are the default properties that are being outputted. Doesn't mean that are all the properties that we have. So you can always do a pipe, select star as an example, or even the get member if you want to list all the properties and know what is available for you to get and to pass to the next command on your script.
Totally. Now, the thing that I think dbatools is best at, right? Like the examples we've seen so far haven't really saved us much time over doing it in Management Studio. But what if we wanted to get information about databases, all the databases on SQL1, SQL2, and SQL3? Well, we'd have to connect to SQL1, grab that information. Okay, no auto shrink here, we're good. Connect to SQL2, no auto shrink enabled because we got no databases there. Connect to SQL3, wow, we got a lot of databases here. We got to go through this list and see if we can pick out where auto shrink is enabled, right? Well, with dbatools, we can just pass in those 3 instances into get DBA database, SQL1, SQL2, SQL3, and then select the properties we care about. And it'll bring all of that information back into one result set. Really nice. You can also filter this, you could sort it, you could pipe it through to another module like Claudio mentioned, import Excel, put it into an Excel spreadsheet. Really cool. Claudio, I want to see some DBA tools.
Then please jump to the demos.
All right.
Let's go. Let's check a couple of things that we can do. Remember these those scripts or these scripts and are all on our repository that just shared before, and these have much more than you will see today and for the time that we have. So let's start with this one. As we said, so we were preaching about get command commandlets, and we can use that and say dash module dbatools to list all the dbatools functions and alias and stuff that we have related with dbatools. And here, as Jesse is scrolling, you can see all the different verbs that we have about things that can be done with dbatools. So you can start to explore. Just how many do we have? If you
I only
saw get there, Claudio.
Sorry?
I think the gets.
There's all kinds. Updates, tests, syncs, stops. It's gone back. Okay, count. 697, Claudio.
Is a little bit less because this is counting with alias, but still almost 700, right? So a lot of them. So in the end, how you get your head around dbatools, how you will find within these 700, almost 700 commands, what you can do or not do. We show the get command, right? And you can find with the get command, you can say which module you want to search on. But the get command gives you just the ability to search like the name of the commands. So we built in find DBA commands. And find DBA commands is a PowerShell or dbatools command that we can pass either a tag, a pattern, an outer, so different parameters. And based on that, we are scrapping our help, comment-based help. And whenever we find this pattern or this tag, we will output those common names and those synopses. So you can take a quick read and say, oh, maybe this is the command I want. So just run the tag backup. And now you can see that we have some commands that start with backup name, but we also have some commands that doesn't have any backup on the name, like copy DBA database or export DBA scripts. But because somewhere on the help we mentioned backup, it will be outputted here. So it's cool because if you don't have internet access, you are inside of the box, you know that most probably dbatools got you covered for what you want to do. You can use these built-in search, let's say, to find something. Just to give another example, if you run the pattern one with linked, so we can run this one, and it will find everything that has the keywords linked. So credentials, linked servers, whenever we export an instance, and so on. We export the linked servers. That's why export DBA instance also appears here. So this is a good way, if you don't know where to start, what you want to search for, a good way without leaving your console, without leaving PowerShell, to get something about the commands.
Yeah, I use this all the time.
Yeah. As just mentioned before, get help. Again, we are talking about our two of the three most useful commands that we can have. If you use get help with a name of a command, in this case from dbatools, test DBA linked server connection, and in this case with -full, we get the full help of these commands. And as you can see, this help was written by the person and by dbatools team to make it very descriptive and that you can have examples. So you will not find any command in dbatools that doesn't have a proper help. Okay, that is also part of our CI/CD pipelines. So whenever we develop something, we test if all these checks are marked, and only after that we approve and make it available. The next example, we won't run it in this case on this console because we are inside of our container, and out-grid view won't work in this case on this side. However, the next, you can copy paste and run that on the other console. But if we run the next one, we can use the alt console grid view, which has this aspect. So it will list, in this case, we did a find DBA command with a pattern role. We selected just the command name and the synopsis, and then we passed that list to this grid view. Now you can select, you can filter, and after selecting the ones that you want, so you can navigate with the arrows and hit the space to select one, we will get the command name just to show that we are getting that. There we go. So we select the set DBA state, and then we got the help of that one. Okay, now
hey guys,
let's
9 minutes to go, Claudio.
Okay, sure. Good. Thanks. So now let's see actually how it works with SQL Server. As in, let's run get DBA database. How do I list all the databases that I have on my instance? In this case, the $dbatools1, which is the variable that has our instance. And as you can see, by default, it outputs a bunch of properties and multiple databases. In this case, we have the master database. If we scroll down, we'll see MSDB and so on and so on. If I don't want all these properties, we can use the select object or even just the short-term select and get just a subset of the properties. So you can just find whatever you want that way. We have databases, but we can also have logins. So as you may imagine, get the DBA login will be a way to get the list of logins that are available. And here you can see which login name is, and login type is a SQL login, is a Windows login, when it was the last login. So all the properties that you can get from the Management Studio, you will also be able to get here. If you want to connect to more than one instance, because so far we have been talking about just connecting to one server, you can pass a list of servers. So now we are passing dbatools1 and dbatools2, which are MS-SQL1 and MS-SQL2. And you can see here on the bottom that we have both instances, and in this case, the logins that are on both of them. So if you have an estate with 10 servers as an example, and you want to search for a specific login, you can pass the 10 instances and then do the search with the where filter as an example. Then we have other flags like exclude system. Maybe you want to exclude the system databases because you are checking something just on the user databases. In this example, we use the pipeline to pass the output of the get DBA database of both instances. and we pipe it to the get DBA DB file. Get DBA DB file, as the name implies, will get you like where the database is, all the files that exist on the database, the MDF, the LDF, and all the other files.
One thing to mention, Claudia, we had a really good question in the chat, was where do we run these commands from? And Rob answered, but just to clarify, like dbatools you can install on your management box, on your jump box, on your local machine, wherever you would install Management Studio, and then you can connect remotely to your instances. You don't need to be on the SQL Server to be able to run these commands. dbatools is using SMO objects, which is the same thing Management Studio is using. So you can connect remotely, which is really cool.
Correct. That is important because people normally think that they will need to install the module on every single server they have, and that then is can be a headache to keep updated and so on. So if you have a central server, even if you have like different domains, hopefully you get one central server per domain that you can use to connect to yours.
Totally. That allows us to connect to multiple instances too, right? We can pull all that information in. Yep. Nice. Correct.
Here, this final example that we have here is, so dbatools also have, we keep a list of the build of the SQL Server. So we know which are the versions, the cumulative updates, the RTM, and so on. And as an example, if you want to double check which version belongs to the build 10.0.6000, we can run that and get that from dbatools. In this case, it will be a SQL 2008 with SP4, and the other one, 2008 R2 SP3. So that is a way, as an example, you can use dbatools to check the compliance of your instances, if they are or not up to date, or if you are some patching behind. One note, although in this case, if you are using those offline installations, you will need to update the JSON file that supports all that lists every now and then to make sure that you are checking your instances and the compliance against the most recent list of versions, okay? I don't know if anyone has any very specific question. If not, we can go back to the slides to share like about the dbatools resources that we have.
Yep. One other thing we had in the comments was people talking about set dbatools insecure connection. So with the changes with SMO recently, and then the move dbatools 2.0 and higher uses that same SMO library. Microsoft has changed the default so that we use connection encryption to connect to our instances. The best option is obviously to set up connection encryption, have those certificates in place so you can connect securely. If you don't have that in place, you instead need to trust the server certificate and allow unencrypted connections, which you can do by running set dbatools insecure connection. It sets these two properties, and that will allow you to reconnect if you were able to before and now you can't. This is probably something you want to look at. Recently, Rob said it's 2 years ago. Whew. That is wild. I can't believe that was 2 years ago. But yes, let's pop back into our slides. And yeah, Claudia, you mentioned we've got a bunch of good dbatools resources out there. We already mentioned the website. The docs is generated from the comment-based help. So all of the stuff we saw with Get Help, you can see on our docs website, which I love that website. I go there all the time. Yep. GitHub, you can find us on LinkedIn. The Slack channel is good for keeping the conversation going if you've got questions or you want to hang out with other dbatools fans, which hopefully all of you now are. And of course, the book, which is just a bestseller. You know, if it could be on that New York bestseller list, it would be at the top, I'm sure. One other thing I want to mention before we wrap up and we'll take any more questions is this was just the first in a 4-part series where we're going to upskill everyone with PowerShell and get everyone excited about automation. You can see Rob on November 12th. The rest of the team should be around too, except me because I can't work a calendar. And then December 10th, Jordan's going to show us everything DBA checks, and then we'll all be back again on the 28th. So if you've got If you've got questions, throw them in the chat. We can continue to answer them for a couple of minutes. But otherwise, thank you, Claudio, and thank you everyone for joining us.
Yeah. So Joel Miller asking if Slack is the best way to chat with people, live people. Yes, it is. If you go there and you have a specific question, if you already test something and you can't make it work, or if you have a more specific doubt, you can drop a message there, and someone will actually pick and chat with you and double check how it can help. And if it ends by being even a bug or something that you want to request to being something else, you can jump on the GitHub, open an issue, fulfill the form, and hopefully that will be something that will be added and fixed soon.
Jordan made a great point in the comment that this is just the tiniest tip of the iceberg of DBA tools, right? But hopefully we've provided you with the tools you need to go and find the commands, get the help, and start exploring. One of the best ways I found personally to learn DBA tools was to try and replicate stuff that I did in Management Studio. So if someone comes to me and is like, hey, can you disable this job? Like, yeah, I know how to do it in Management Studio. Can I replicate it in DBA tools? And go and read the help, work out how to do it, and then confirm that you did it. But yeah.
And one final note, if you are kind of afraid because you see some verbs like remove or invoke or some other things, you can always start with the get verb, because those things will just do selects to the database to get that data, and that is a good way to start your way around and to play around with DBA tools and find what you can do with those commands, and then jump to whatever other commands you will need over time.
Cool. So let me stop the recording. We are at 3 o'clock Central Time, or I don't know, what is that, 4 o'clock Eastern Time?
It's 9 p.m. here.
Yeah. Yeah, bedtime for Jess.
That's right.
Cool. So I have stopped.